I had been married to Ashley for 3 years. We'd been together for almost 6. I thought I knew her. I thought we had something real. But a couple of months ago, we had our first child, and everything started feeling off. I didn't know why. I should have been over the moon, right? A new dad, a beautiful wife, a future ahead of us. But something was missing. I'd sit in the nursery at night, watching my son sleep, waiting for that rush of love everyone talks about. The kind that hits you like a freight train, that makes you feel like you'd do anything for this tiny human. But it never came. At first, I chalked it up to exhaustion. Maybe even some weird form of postpartum depression that fathers could get. I tried harder, held him more, talked to him, forced myself into every parenting book and forum I could find. But that disconnect stayed. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. Ashley and I were in bed, the baby monitor humming softly beside us. I stared at the ceiling, my chest tight, my hands gripping the sheets. "I don't know what's wrong with me," I muttered. My voice came out quieter than I intended. "I feel like I'm failing as a dad." Ashley, scrolling through her phone, barely looked up. "You're not failing, Mark." "No." "Listen," I said, my throat closing up. "I try. I really do, but it's like he doesn't feel like mine." I let out a bitter laugh, rubbing a hand over my face. "God, that sounds horrible." Ashley froze. I turned to her, expecting her to reassure me, to tell me I was overthinking, that I just needed time. But instead, her lip trembled. And then, just like that, she broke. Her face crumpled as she let out a choked sob. Not a quiet one, either. The kind that came from deep inside, shaking her whole body. "Ashley," I sat up, reaching for her, but she jerked away. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. My stomach twisted. Something about the way she said it, something about the way she looked at me, like she'd been carrying a weight too heavy for too long, made my pulse spike. "What are you sorry for?" I asked, my voice sharper now. Ashley buried her face in her hands. "He's not yours, Mark." For a second, I couldn't breathe. The words didn't make sense. They hung in the air, thick and impossible, like smoke in my lungs. I stared at her. "What?" She let out another sob. I had a paternity test done. A few months ago. The room felt like it was tilting. I swallowed hard. "And you didn't think I deserved to know?" Ashley shook her head, squeezing her eyes shut. "I wanted to tell you. I did. But the affair ended before I even found out I was pregnant, and I thought if I kept quiet, if I focused on us, we could move past it." I swung my legs over the bed, my whole body trembling. "Who?" I forced out. "Who is it?" She hesitated. And that moment, that hesitation, was enough. A horrible, sinking realization crawled up my spine. "No," I whispered. "No, Ashley. Tell me it's not ill." She sobbed harder. "It's Dylan. Dylan. My older brother." The room spun. I shot to my feet so fast the nightstand rattled. "Ashley, please, tell me you're lying." My voice cracked. I could barely hear myself over the pounding in my ears. "I'm not," she choked out. I stumbled back, my breath coming in ragged gasps. 3 years. She had been sleeping with my brother for 3 fucking years. I bolted for the closet, yanking a duffel bag off the shelf. I didn't care where I went. I just needed to get out. Ashley scrambled after me. "Mark, wait. Please." I turned on her so fast she flinched. "You let me believe he was mine." My voice was deadly quiet. "You let me hold him, love him, think he was my son. And the whole time, you knew." Tears streamed down her face. I was scared. I let out a hollow laugh. "Scared? Scared of what? Losing your cushy little life?" Her face crumpled. "I love you." I threw my bag over my shoulder. "No, you don't. If you did, you wouldn't have done this." She grabbed my arm, desperate. "Please don't go, Mark. I'll do anything." I yanked away. "You already did." And then I walked out. The night air hit me like a slap as I climbed into my car. My hands trembled against the steering wheel. I felt like I was going to throw up. I drove without thinking, without direction. Just away. I didn't stop until I hit a motel on the other side of the city. I checked in, locked the door, sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall, trying to process the fact that my entire life had just imploded. My phone buzzed. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. I finally glanced at the screen. "Mom, call me now." I clenched my jaw. No, not yet. Not until I could think. I shoved the phone under my pillow, lay back, and let the ceiling blur as reality crashed down around me. I didn't call my mom back. Not that night. Not the next day. For 48 hours, I stayed in that motel room, barely sleeping, barely eating, just staring at the ceiling, replaying everything over and over in my head. Ashley's sobs, Dylan's name leaving her lips. The way my whole body had gone numb when I realized he's not mine. He was never mine. And then, there was the anger. The kind that burned slow and deep, like a fire just waiting to spread. I knew I couldn't stay here forever. Eventually, I had to face the fallout. So, on the third day, I turned my phone back on. The notifications came in instantly. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, from Ashley, my parents, even Dylan. I hesitated for half a second, then clicked on the most recent voicemail from my mom. Mark, her voice came through, tight and urgent. We need to talk. I know you're upset, but please call us. It's important. I deleted it. The next one was from my dad. Son, whatever happened, it's done. You can't change the past. What you can do is be a man about it and move forward. We all need to sit down and talk this out like adults. My hands curled into fists. Then, the final voicemail. Dylan. I almost didn't listen. I didn't want to hear his voice. But some sick part of me needed to know what the hell he had to say. Mark, man, he sighed. Look, I know you're pissed. I get it. But let's not make this a bigger deal than it needs to be, all right? It was a pause. Then, quieter, it was just one of those things, you know? It happened. It's over. Let's move on. I nearly shattered my phone right then and there. One of those things? 3 years. 3 fucking years. And he talked about it like it was nothing. The rage in my chest finally exploded. I didn't care about keeping this quiet anymore. I didn't care about protecting anyone. They wanted to act like this was no big deal? Fine. I'd make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of people they really were. I spent the next 3 hours compiling a list of every business contact, every family member, every mutual friend, anyone who mattered to my parents, anyone who mattered to Ashley's parents, anyone Dylan respected. And then, I wrote the email. I kept it short, straight to the point. Subject, the truth. Hey everyone. I wanted you all to hear this from me before the rumors start. 3 days ago, I found out that my wife, Ashley, has been cheating on me for the past 3 years with my brother, Dylan. She kept it a secret even after she got pregnant. She let me believe the baby was mine, knowing full well that he wasn't. My parents, instead of supporting me, asked me to stay quiet about it, for the sake of their business dealings with Ashley's father. I won't be staying quiet. I won't be forgiving. And I sure as hell won't be part of this family anymore. Mark, I had sinned. And then, I turned off my phone. Let them deal with the consequences for once. It didn't take long for the fallout to start. When I turned my phone back on the next morning, my inbox was flooded. Some emails were from extended family, mostly shocked responses, a few people saying they were so sorry I had to go through this. Others, though, they weren't so kind. Jesus, Mark, did you have to drag your family through the mud like that? I get that you're upset, but this was private. You didn't need to humiliate everyone. You're overreacting. Families go through worse and make it work. That one nearly made me laugh. Then, of course, there were the messages from my parents. My dad had sent a short, cold email. You just ruined your mother's life. I hope you're happy. My mom's was longer, filled with frantic justifications. Mark, please, you don't understand. Your father's business is already struggling. This investment from Ashley's family was our only chance. If you go through with this divorce, if you make this public, they might pull out. We need this deal to survive. Just come home. Let's talk about this. We can figure something out. I didn't reply. Then, as if the universe knew I wasn't quite angry enough yet, my phone buzzed again. Ashley. I almost ignored it. Almost. But then, another message came in right after. What the fuck did you do? I smirked. Then, without thinking, I answered. What I should have done the second you confessed. Her response came immediately. You just destroyed my life. I shook my head, a bitter chuckle escaping my lips. No, Ashley, you did that. I just made sure everyone saw the wreckage. I didn't wait for a reply. I blocked her number. I blocked Dylan's. And for the first time in days, I finally felt like I could breathe. I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. But at least now? Now they all knew exactly who they were dealing with. 2 days passed after I sent the email. 2 days of radio silence from Dylan, from Ashley, from my parents. I knew it wouldn't last. Then, like clockwork, the fallout hit. My phone started buzzing with unknown numbers. Voicemails. Emails. I ignored them all. Then one afternoon, While I was drowning myself in work at the office, my phone lit up with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Pick up. You're gonna want to hear this. I frowned. Something about it made my gut twist. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mark. A familiar voice. A woman. I sat up straighter. Who is this? A pause. Then, it's Sarah. Sarah. Dylan's ex. The last time I saw her was years ago, before he dumped her like he did every woman who got too close. What do you want? I asked, wary. She let out a slow breath. I was the one who sent you the photos. My grip on the phone tightened. Excuse me. I knew, she admitted. For months. Maybe longer. I stayed silent, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. I was visiting family last year, she continued. I saw them together at a hotel. Thought maybe it was a coincidence. But it wasn't. My fingers curled into a fist on my desk. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Sarah sighed. Because I wasn't sure how. And, honestly, I wanted revenge. Dylan used me. Lied to me. Treated me like an afterthought. When I saw him with Ashley, I knew he hadn't changed. And I wanted him to pay. I swallowed. So why now? She hesitated. Because you deserve to know. And because. I wanted to watch it all burn. For a second, I just sat there, processing. Maybe I should have been angry that she waited so long. But truth be told, I respected it. At least someone had the guts to tell me the truth. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. There's something else. I tensed. What? She took a deep breath. Ashley didn't break things off with Dylan because of the baby. He dumped her. I clenched my jaw. Say that again. He didn't want to be a father, she continued. When she told him she was pregnant, he told her to get rid of it. She refused, so he cut her off. Blocked her, ignored her, pretended she never existed. That's why she suddenly wanted to fix things with you. You were her backup plan. My stomach twisted. You sure about this? I asked, voice tight. Positive, Sarah said. She told one of my friends after a few drinks. Thought she was venting. Didn't realize she was handing over the last nail in her coffin. My pulse pounded. Ashley had cried in my arms, begged me to stay, acted like she was some broken, regretful wife. The whole time? She wasn't heartbroken over me. She was just pissed that Dylan had thrown her away first. My fingers twitched with the urge to throw my phone against the wall. Instead, I took a slow, measured breath. I wasn't going to lose control. I was going to destroy her. Thanks for telling me, I said finally. Sarah chuckled. No problem. Let me know if you ever need more dirt. I have years of it. I hung up. And then? I made another call. To my lawyer. Ashley was served with my petition to disestablish paternity the next morning. And just like I expected, she lost her damn mind. I should have known she'd try to call from an unknown number, but like an idiot, I picked up. Mark, she spat the second I answered. What the hell is wrong with you? I leaned back in my chair, forcing my voice to stay calm. Not sure what you mean. You know exactly what I mean, she screamed. You're suing me? You want to erase yourself from his life like you never existed. I smirked. Oh, I don't have to erase myself, Ashley. I was never there to begin with. You were, she shrieked. You were there for the pregnancy. The birth. That's what matters. Yeah? And where was Dylan? Silence. I let it stretch, let it sting. Then I said, voice like steel, I won't be forced into being a father just because you got abandoned. Ashley sucked in a sharp breath. You don't get it, do you? She whispered. Enlighten me. She let out a bitter laugh. I have nothing left. My parents barely look at me. My friends disappeared. Everyone knows what happened because of you. I scoffed. I didn't cheat on myself, Ashley. You did this. She went quiet. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, I think about ending it sometimes. My breath caught. For the first time, there was no manipulation in her voice. No anger. Just pure, exhausted sadness. I closed my eyes. Ashley, you need help. I know, she choked. I just don't know where to start. I ran a hand down my face. Look, I can send you some resources. Therapist numbers. Support groups. But that's all I can do. I can't be your emotional crutch. Not after everything. She sniffled. Okay. We sat in silence for a few moments. Then she whispered, I'm sorry, Mark. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I am. For the first time, I almost believed her. We hung up. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt lighter. Then my phone buzzed with another message. Ashley admitted everything. Want proof? The number was unfamiliar. My gut twisted. I hesitated. Then typed back. Who is this? A friend. A second later, a video file appeared. My chest tightened. I pressed play. The footage was grainy, taken in a dimly lit bar. Ashley sat across from another woman, clearly drunk. Never even wanted the kid, she slurred. Thought about leaving town. Just running. But I can't. The woman said something I couldn't hear. Ashley let out a bitter laugh. Mark thinks I give a shit about him? Please. I only begged him to stay because I needed someone. Anyone. My fingers curled around my phone. I told him I had postpartum. Thought maybe that would make him feel guilty. But the idiot still won't cave. The video ended. I stared at my screen, my vision swimming with rage. I had almost let her pull me back in. Almost. But now? Now, I was done playing nice. I sat there, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. My pulse pounded in my ears as Ashley's words kept replaying in my head. Mark thinks I give a shit about him? Please. I only begged him to stay because I needed someone. Anyone. I told him I had postpartum. Thought maybe that would make him feel guilty. The worst part? I almost believed her. Almost let her drag me back into her mess. I clenched my jaw, exhaling slowly through my nose, forcing myself to think. Someone had sent me that video for a reason. Someone wanted me to see the truth, the whole truth. But who? And why now? My phone buzzed again. I assume you watched it. I stared at the message, then typed back. Who the hell are you? Someone who hates liars as much as you do. I frowned, my mind racing. A friend of Sarah's? Someone else Ashley had burned? Why send this now? I asked. A long pause. Then, because she deserves everything coming to her. I had no idea who this person was, but they weren't wrong. I forwarded the video to my lawyer with a short message. Use this. His reply came within minutes. This is solid. If she tries to contest anything, this destroys her credibility. Good. I needed her out of my life, legally, permanently. I wasn't playing her games anymore. The next morning, Ashley showed up at my office. I should have expected it. She had no way to call me, no way to text, no way to get under my skin. So, of course, she physically showed up. I was coming back from grabbing coffee when I saw her standing near the reception desk, arms crossed, her face pale and drawn. The receptionist looked deeply uncomfortable. Mr. Carter, she said. It's fine, I muttered, setting my coffee down. I turned to Ashley, keeping my face unreadable. What do you want? Her eyes flicked over me, searching for something, anger, regret, maybe even sympathy. She found nothing. You're really doing this? She asked, her voice quieter than I expected. I let out a short, humorless laugh. What did you think was going to happen, Ashley? That I'd just forgive you? She swallowed. I was drunk. I tilted my head. Oh, that's your excuse now? Her jaw tightened. It wasn't all a lie. I am struggling, Mark. I do hate what I did to you. I leaned in slightly. You know what I hate? The fact that I actually felt bad for you. I let my words sink in, watching her flinch. You knew what you were doing. Every tear, every apology, every single word out of your mouth was just another lie. Her lips parted slightly, but she had no defense. I stepped past her. You need to leave, Ashley. She grabbed my arm, lightly, hesitantly. Mark, wait. I pulled away, turning to face her one last time. This? Us? It's done. You don't get to show up at my work, at my home, anywhere. I took a slow breath, steadying myself. Find Dylan. Tell him to fix your problems. A bitter, humorless smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Dylan's gone, Mark. He ran the second I told him I was keeping the baby. Changed his number. Sold his place. Left the city. I shouldn't have been surprised. Dylan never took responsibility for anything. But still, the fact that he had disappeared without a second thought, leaving her to deal with the fallout alone? It was almost funny. Ashley crossed her arms, looking down. I thought you were better than him. I let out a quiet chuckle. I am. And then, without another word, I walked away. Weeks passed. The court process took time, but with the video evidence, my lawyer had a solid case. Ashley didn't even try to contest it. She had no fight left in her. By the end of the month, it was official. My name was removed from the birth certificate. No more legal ties. No more responsibility. I was free. I should have felt nothing but relief. And I did. But there was something else too. Not sadness. Not regret. Just emptiness. For 6 years, Ashley had been everything to me. My partner, my best friend, my future. And now? Now, she was just a stranger with my last name, at least, until the divorce finalized. One night, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Our wedding day. A vacation we took to the mountains. Random little moments, her stealing my hoodie, her falling asleep on the couch with a book in her lap. Had any of it been real? Had I ever really known her? I hovered over the album, my chest tight. Then, with one tap, I deleted every single picture. A month after everything ended, my mom called. I almost ignored it. But something told me to pick up. She hesitated when I answered. "Mark, your father had a heart attack." I stayed silent. "He's in the hospital," she continued. "He's asking for you." I exhaled sharply, pressing my thumb and forefinger against my temple. The same man who told me to suck it up and stay in a broken marriage for his business. The same man who tried to manipulate me into raising Dylan's kid. Now he wanted to see me? Why? I asked flatly. "Because he regrets everything," she whispered. "And because I think he's scared." I closed my eyes. This was the man who raised me. The man I once looked up to. But that was before I learned the truth. "I'll think about it," I said. Then I hung up. I didn't go to the hospital that night. Or the next. For 2 days, I wrestled with it. Not because I felt guilty, not after everything my father had done, but because some stupid part of me still remembered the man he used to be. The one who taught me how to ride a bike. The one who stayed up all night helping me with a school project because I'd waited until the last minute. The one who hugged me the day I got into college and said, "I'm proud of you, son." That man was long gone. The one lying in that hospital bed was the same man who had thrown me aside when it was convenient. Who had told me to be a man and raise another man's child for the sake of a business deal. The same man who had watched me walk away and only regretted it when he was the one left alone. But still, I went. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and bad coffee. My shoes squeaked against the linoleum as I walked down the hall, my heart pounding harder than I wanted to admit. When I stepped into his room, my mother was sitting beside his bed, her hands clasped tightly together. She looked up the second she saw me, relief washing over her face. "Mark," she breathed. I ignored her. My eyes went straight to my father. He looked smaller than I remembered. Older. His face was pale, and there were deep shadows under his eyes. Tubes ran into his arms, a heart monitor beeping steadily in the background. His eyes fluttered open. When he saw me, something flickered across his face, something I couldn't place. "You came," he rasped. I stepped further into the room, hands shoved into my pockets. "Yeah." A heavy silence stretched between us. Then he sighed. "I messed up, son." I let out a quiet, humorless laugh. "No shit." He flinched. For a moment, I thought he was going to get defensive, pull the same old bullshit excuses about doing what was best for the family. But he didn't. Instead, he just nodded. "I should have protected you. Should have stood by you. Instead, I let greed get in the way." His voice was weaker than I'd ever heard it. And I lost my son because of it. I studied him carefully. He looked like a man who had lost everything. And maybe, for the first time, he truly understood what that meant. "Yeah," I said flatly. "You did." Another long pause. Then, softer, he whispered, "I'm sorry, Mark." I didn't say anything. Because what was there to say? I could have told him that an apology didn't fix anything. That saying sorry didn't erase the fact that he had betrayed me, manipulated me, treated me like a disposable piece on his chessboard. But what was the point? I wasn't here for closure. I was here to bury the past. "You made your choice," I said. "And now you get to live with it." I turned to leave. "Mark." I stopped, but didn't look back. "Don't be like me," he whispered. "Don't let anger ruin your life the way it ruined mine." I didn't respond. I just walked out. 2 months later, the divorce finalized. Ashley didn't contest anything. She was too busy dealing with the mess Dylan had left behind. From what I heard, she did end up taking him to court for child support. He fought it, of course he did, but DNA doesn't lie. I hope she squeezed every last penny out of him. My parents moved away, packed up what little they had left, and started over in some small town in Texas. I didn't reach out. Neither did they. I wasn't sure if I missed them. Some nights, I'd catch myself reaching for my phone, muscle memory kicking in. Then I'd remember there was no one left to call. And maybe that was for the best. One evening, I was sitting in my apartment, drinking a beer, staring out at the city lights. My phone buzzed. A single message. "So, did karma do its job yet?" "Sarah." I smirked, shaking my head. "Yeah," I typed back. And it was worth every second. There was a pause. Then, "Good. You deserved better." I stared at those words for a long time. Then, for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt lighter. I finished my beer, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking back.